Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Gotta get this mic together. Ooh. I hope y'all can hear me real good, because sometimes, it don't be sounding right, you know what I'm saying? I want to introduce you to someone. It's been in my life for many years. I know a lot of you, probably wonder about if I have this in my life, and finally I want to let you know that I do. And I just will never bring him on because I don't know, I'm pretty private, and people like to judge and things, but you know what? Today is the day. So I would like you to meet my person. Come here. Yeah, I gonna love him so much because I do. Come here. Yep, this is him. He has been in my life for forever. And yes, he's a little older than me. See, little hair. It's not gray. It's white, actually. It's white. And it's real old. I ain't got nothing against older people with white hair. I think it's beautiful. That's why I'm with him. So, don't take that, and be offended by what I've said. He has lost the top part of his head as well, and he has lost his feet. And sometimes that does happen in life. One loses the top of their head and their feet. What can I say? Ladies love me. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Walk Live Listen Linda. For all of you who've been rocking with me since day one, I love you. I love you so much. And for all of you who are new, thank you for stopping by. I hope you like what you see and what you hear. And if you do, hey, hit that notification button, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave me a comment, share, do what you do to you're not saved. Y'all, all right. So, my name is Sakima. For those of you who do not know me, I post on this channel every Tuesday, okay? And what do I post on this channel? I post nuggets, different lessons that God has given me along my walk with Him, and they've helped me chip away at some of the barriers in my path. And my hope is that these lessons will help you as well. That's it. That's all we doing. You know what I'm talking about? That's all we doing. Okay, let's get into it. All right, so I know that you saw the title. We are talking about nuances today, baby. Nuances. And for those of you who are not familiar with that word, that became one of my favorite words. It really helped define a lot of things that were blurry to me and fuzzy and confusing. A nuance is a subtle difference in or shade of meaning, expression, or sound. It's just a subtle difference. A subtle difference. So, you guys, okay, first of all, let me just start off by saying, you know how I've been doing the videos lately, more structured. And today will not be like that, okay? We are going to go back to this conversation that we're having, all right? And so you guys remember to let me know in the comments whether you like it this way or the other way. And if you haven't seen it the other way, then go see the last, two videos, and let me know if you like it structured or if you like it conversational or what is it. Just let me know how you feel. All right, y'all know how I get whenever we do the conversations, so I'll be getting long-winded. I get excited, so I'm going to try to keep it under wraps, okay? And if you watch my channel, you know that if I'm looking over here somewhere, y'all, I'm looking at my notes. I'm looking at my notes. My notes. Over here, my notes. All right, so I think it's important for us to know about nuances because they really make they're subtle changes that make big differences, okay? A lot of times whenever we're not familiar with nuances, we tend to get run over, we get used, we're confused about things, we're put in compromising situations, and we don't want to do that. We want to have some clarity and a little bit more definition, rather than being a little fuzzy and a little blurry about, what we are perceiving. And we need to be able to pick up on nuances. A lot of times, if you've ever heard of gaslighting, um, gaslighting, I'll loosely define it for you, is when maybe someone is talking to you and they're making you think basically that you are remembering something differently than it happened. They're like feeding you things to make you think that maybe you have it wrong when you know for a fact you do not have it wrong and you're not remembering it wrong, or it did not happen that way, or it did happen that way. And that's gaslighting. And many people in relationships or out relationships, just in situationships or whatever, have experienced being gaslighted. And there are so many different things that they do that can come off as one way, but they will say that maybe it is something else. For example, if someone is saying things like, "Oh man, your hair would look much better in a different style if it was straighter," you know what I'm saying? Or, "Oh, well, that's an interesting skirt you picked. I mean, that's it's really interesting. It's yeah, it's I mean, I wouldn't personally pick it, but what I love is that you got your own style. So that's awesome." Or you come out the next day and it's like, "Oh, you change your makeup? Oh, okay. Oh, no, no, no. That's no. You like to try new things. I'm glad you do things that are different. That's just you're just different, and that's you, and that's what makes you awesome. You know. You see how I am saying something that seems like it ends like you're trying to be nice, but you're not really being nice. The nuance there was your tone, your the implications, your facial expressions, the way what you were communicating to me without communicating. And those are nuances. That's an example of nuance. And those subtle things can be so hard to pick up on that we are fooled into thinking that it's something that it's not. We think we got a wonderful person right here, and they are claiming to be so innocent. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't recognize the good thing in front of you. Like, I always tell you that you're different, and you be you, and no, but that's not what you just did. See. So that's just an example. We're not even talking about relationships today, y'all. That's another video. But I gave that example because I want us to be able to pick up on those nuances, and I want us to be able to relate and understand how that can be something that can affect us. And so that was just a practical example. All right. So remember, I said that whenever we don't pick up on those things, we'll find ourselves in compromising situations, or we'll find ourselves thinking that something is one way, but it's really another way. It's throwing us off. And I want to talk about fear. I want to talk about pride. I want to talk about meekness and shyness. I want to talk about all of these terms because I think there is a part here. There are things that we've gotten misconstrued. We have gotten them mixed up. There are some nuances in here that make our use of those terms in our lives, it makes it incorrect. It makes it wrong. It makes those things work against us. And they can be used properly or they can be used wrong. And if we don't notice which way we're using them, which side we lie on, then we can be affecting things in a way that we don't want to. Okay. And I'm saying this, I'm telling you things that I've experienced. So I'm telling you this out of experience. So Listen, y'all, with pride, okay, pride shows up in so many different ways. Um, and so does being shy or meek or whatever you want to call it. Um, we have pride a lot of times when we shouldn't, and we portray to be meek when we are actually shy. And why are we talking about this today, by the way? Um, I think that this is another area that trips us up with getting anywhere in life. Anywhere. You know, we have goals, we have things that we want to accomplish, things that we want to do, but the nuances within and behind these terms that I mentioned are causing a big hurdle for us, a blockage for us. And I want to unpack this because it's something that is so subtle, or it can be so subtle sometimes that we don't notice it. But it's, remember I said, a nuance is something small that makes a big difference. And so while this may not be an area that anybody ever pays attention to, this is something good for us to pay attention to because we want change in our lives. We want growth in our lives. We want to reach our goals. We want to overcome in areas where we have not so far. We've just gone in cycles. So I'm here to help you do that because I'm walking through that journey myself. I'm doing that same thing. And lately I've really had to unpack this. Am I fearful? Am I being meek or am I shy? When someone begins to talk about things and they're so confident, I get in a room where someone is confident and they have a very dominant personality. What is happening to me? Am I also able to be happy but remain confident, or am I shy, or am I being meek, or what is happening to me? And why didn't I say anything about what I was doing and certain things that I know about? And why did I turn into this little mouse? Why did I turn into this person that just tried to please somebody like that fast? Like, I am so bold and so loud in other situations, and then I get in this environment and I don't know what happens. Like, I feel like I'm being a good person. I feel like I'm being, supportive, and that's good, right? And that's, I feel like I'm okay. So we need to unpack it. We are dealing with so many different emotions, so many different feelings when it comes to our demeanor in the way that we are in certain situations. And if you're like me, you question sometimes, like, am I doing this right? This meaning, when I'm interacting with people, do I carry God's boldness with me? Am I prideful or confident? Like, I sometimes feel like I'm being one of them, but it's not producing the results that I would think that confidence would bring, or it's not producing the results that I feel meekness would bring. And I think that I leave still feeling sad or feeling off, or like I didn't, like I wasn't myself. Like, what is this that's going on inside of me when I get around people, when am in certain environments? And so I hope this is making sense to you, what I want to talk about today. So let's talk about some of this. So, as I said, we have pride when we shouldn't, and we portray to be meek when we are actually shy. Okay, you guys, we have whole months, and this is a whole nother video. But hey, and I know I might step on some toes right here, but I gotta say it. We have months where we are claiming that are celebrating pride, and we're having pride. And we shouldn't be prideful in the way that we are wanting to express it, is that we are confident and we are happy about what it is that we're representing, what it is that we're standing for. We are confident about it. We're having, we like it. We are proud about it. We're wanting to have that type of, we have the negative pride that we're thinking about, like where we're just arrogant at this point, and we are just, we can't get in a place of submission or vulnerability in order to help we couldn't do it to save our lives. And that is that negative side of pride. And then the happy side of pride is that, no, we're just happy. We're just confident about what we're doing. We're just, yes, yeah. And we have whole months dedicated to us being prideful about things. And we are prideful about something that does not please God. We have misplaced our pride. You are proud when you please God, if that is what you proclaim that you want to do. Now, if you don't want to do it, then I'm not talking to you. But if you proclaim that you want to please God, then you are only proud of the fact that I am in the will of God. That is what makes you proud. That is what you are proud of. And you would never celebrate being outside of the will of God. That's another video. It's cool. We'll move on. We are also taught to be prideful as a defense, but it's important to recognize when it's working against us. And I see a lot of this, and I can only speak from my experience, but in the African American community, especially as a young African American girl or woman, I was taught to be proud and to hold my head up and to, make sure that I know that I'm beautiful and don't worry about what nobody's saying, and this is awesome. Absolutely, we should be proud of that. We should be proud of the way that God made us, and we should be proud of what God is doing in our lives. But if we are prideful to the point where we are doing this as a defense, blocking, trying to not get hurt, then that might be, it has the potential to bleed over into being prideful when we shouldn't. It bleeds over into that negative side of pride where we have to just be, ooh, my ring light, Father. Well, we have to be arrogant almost, in order to keep ourselves from being hurt. And we don't want to operate in that area, because when we start operating in that area where we're taking pride in things that we know we're not proud of, in order to save ourselves, in order to keep ourselves from being hurt, then we've got to keep it going. Then we start to train ourselves that whatever it takes, I'm going to shield myself from the pain. And whatever it takes is not good. Whatever it takes doesn't leave room for God to be glorified and for God to do what he wants to do through our lives. Because that means that we're willing to, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it pleases God. I'm in survival mode at this point and I want to save myself. And so we're in the whatever it takes. That's not where we want to be. So if we want to have pride, we want to make sure that we measure our pride against what God wants, what God desires. Is it placed right? Or do we have that subtle nuance that is, yeah, I'm prideful because I'm scared. I'm scared of being hurt. Okay, well, let's move on. All right. Shyness is or can be a form of pride. Being overly concerned with the opinions of men can be a reflection of obsession with one's self. That's what one site said, as I was doing research. And I said, wow, you know, who knew? All this time, I would call myself completely opposite of prideful or arrogant or haughty. I'm quite shy. And all this time, behind that veil, behind that cloak, was a prideful person. If Joyce Myers were here, she would say, honey, you're doing right wrong. You're doing right wrong. Okay? We want to be meek. And the Bible talks about the meek inheriting the earth. But a lot of times we get shyness and meekness confused. Most time we associate shyness with meekness, but shyness stems from fear and pride, whereas meekness stems from a more intentional choice to position yourself in a place of submission to God and or a person. So If you're meek, it's more of a choice to be submissive. It's more of a choice to get in a place of reverence towards God or towards someone. And of course, when you've made the decision, made that choice to do that, then yes, your temperament does change. However, we need to really evaluate. Am I shy or am I choosing to be meek? Am I choosing to be submissive in this moment to what God is doing here in me, in this person, in this place? And I think that is something that I struggled with, that I got misconstrued. I have been a shy person, believe it or not. I know it's hard to believe. But I have been a shy person normally. And lots of times I have soothed myself, you know, for, if I felt, kind of bad for being quiet or being whatever, I soothe myself by saying, I'm just, observant. I'm just kind of a meek person, just, and a lot of times in certain situations, my temperament is more meek. However, there is a large fear. If I'm honest, there's a large, huge, overwhelming fear of judgment that is nestled under that shyness that I portray as meekness. It's that fear of judgment. If I'm too loud, or if I say something that's too outrageous and people don't get it, or if I reveal something that people didn't know about me and they're like, oh, and that changes the way that they think of me, or it's so many things behind it, It's so interesting because even if, in a lot of situations, if I think about it, even if they were to know some of these things, because some of these things I actually do tell you guys. So even if they were to know some of these things, it wouldn't even be so bad. It's not that bad. It actually is empowering sometimes to talk about these things that I've gone through and to tell what God has done for me and the things that I struggle with or the things that God has to help me through, and I have to ask Him to guide me through. Um, so it's actually not a huge issue if it's found out, but for some reason there is still a paralyzing fear at certain moments, and there are certain moments where I'm shrinking. I feel like, oh my gosh, because I feel that I cannot just let loose and be me. That is the worst thing ever. Because if you're a person who knows God is doing something amazing in you, and you get around someone, whenever you know who you are, because you leave from situations feeling like you didn't give it your best, feeling like uh I was I was scared. I was like, I didn't say anything. I was just scared. You know who you are, and that's so frustrating. And it's like, how many opportunities do we miss to impact others' lives, to impact our own lives, to get somewhere, to reach some of the goals that we have set because of our fear that we are portraying as meekness. It's really us being prideful. And we want to get away from that. And you know what? We oftentimes have a lot of unfinished projects. People like you and me, we often have a lot of unfinished projects around the house and just within our lives, period. And I believe that also, they stem from these same terms. Unfinished projects remain that way because we are used to running from completion. What? We're used to running from completion? Why would I run from completion? Well, if we think about the bigger things that we have, when God shows us a glimpse of something that He's calling us to do, and if you think about yourself on the other side, like actually walking that thing out, oh my gosh, that can be overwhelming. That can be overwhelming. It's one thing to think about it, and it's another thing to start walking in that authority, especially if you have not done that before. the first time, y'all, well, I've said this before, but I was sitting in church, and I remember the first time I just decided to it wasn't even a decision, a conscious decision. It was just a thing that happened in me. I got so excited that I was like, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. And hearing the authority behind this little meek mouse voice of mine, it was like almost for a split second, I was like, who did that? And it was just so crazy to hear myself walk in this authority, walk into this person. This was me. This was who I wanted to be. This was what I wanted to say. This was how I wanted to express myself in that moment. And I did it. Like, I did it. But it was so foreign to me because I had been used to being like, I don't really want to step in anyone's toes. I don't want to shake the boat at all. I kind of just wanted to stay calm. Whatever people think about me, just let them think that about me, and hopefully it's really good. And whatever people, don't know about me, let's just leave it there because I can, for this one moment, I can just make things so calm and uninteresting that no one will be worried about anything, and they'll not ask me any questions, and I won't be called to the front, and I won't be. Y'all, we got to get out of this. But as I was saying, we are used to running from completion because that other side, listen, this is what I wrote. Completion means success, and success means responsibility, which means eyes on you, which means judgment and pressure to perform, and to perform well, and to not fail and to not be humiliated. Like, it's a chain reaction in our mind. We go that what I just went through, even though I went through it here, slowly, probably for you and for me, that chain of thoughts happens quick in our minds. It happens quick in our minds. We'll go all the way to our humiliation or to our failure, like in less than a second. And so our running from completion shows up in different things. You would think that it just shows up whenever it's some task that we have to, or some goal we're trying to meet, some big goal, and we're like, ooh, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna write the book. Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna audition for that. Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. You would think that it shows up just then. But when you start to train yourself to run from completion, and you start to do it in such a way where it doesn't look like you're running, it just looks like I just haven't gotten to it yet. No, that nuance. Am I running, or did I just not get to it yet? No, you running. You didn't even give it the time. You haven't even scheduled the time out to set yourself for success. There is not even a completion date. There's not a goal for completion on this project of yours. If you're like me, you get to the point where you're like, okay, I just need to sit down for a second. And that second ends up being a few weeks and months, maybe even years on certain projects. You get to the point where it's getting real. Some of us do this in relationships. We're like, it's getting real. It's time to step back for just a second. That is us, y'all. We start to sabotage things, and we are running from that completion because completion means a whole bunch of other things. And we have to recognize what is really behind those things. The things that are showing up in our lives, trying to disguise themselves as just confidence, ends up really being pride, or meekness ends up really being shyness, which ends up really being pride. And we have just got to get away from that. We've got to get away from that fear. Okay, and we've got to recognize it. It's showing up in ways that makes us think, oh, we're fine. We're fine. Yet all the while, for some reason, we're not reaching any goals. We're not getting anywhere. We're just like running in place or something. Like, what is going on? Life is passing us by. We're seeing everybody else doing what they love, and we're just sitting here like, what am I doing? And not that you should be comparing yourself, but we know, we deal with ourselves every day. So we know when we ourselves, between us and God, when we are not doing our best in a certain area, when we might be experiencing a little fear, a little fatigue when it comes to certain things, even if we can't completely understand why all the time, we know when we are experiencing these things. And we just need to be proactive about them. We need to start digging into them and sorting it out and asking God to help us with these things that we struggle with. So, some reasons that we want to remember to not be so anxious and be so afraid and fearful when we get in certain environments and around certain people. I just want us, I want to remind us of some reasons that we don't want to get in that place where we are cowering, where people seem to be so frightening to us that we are not able to function. Um, if you're like me, which I know you are because you watch the videos, but if you're like me, um, you are you are often in moments where you want to be who you really are, but it is so hard to step out. And you love the verse in the Bible that talks about not being afraid of their faces. I believe God was talking to Moses at the time, and he was telling him, I will be with your mouth. Who made your mouth? I'll be with your mouth. Because Moses, the entire time, was like, I don't know, Lord. I'm like, I stutter and stuff, so you might want to get somebody else, you know what I'm saying? And God was like, who made your mouth? Like, I know everything there is about you, and I chose you. And said, don't be afraid of their faces. Okay, I had to look that up for y'all. So, well, and for me. So I want to tell y'all right. Okay, so Jeremiah was the one. He was called to be a prophet to the nation. So um, God was telling him to not be afraid of their faces. And Moses was the one whom he said to, who made your mouth? I will be with your mouth. And so those are two instances, actually, not the same instance, two instances where God is telling them basically, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. Okay. And remember, if you watched the video from last week, I was talking about how one of the sources that I was studying from had said that the phrase fear not was in the Bible, what, over 80 times? So that was something that's obviously important for us to get. So, a few reasons why we should remember to not be afraid of their faces is they're human. They're human just like us. And what does that mean? That means they're flawed. In some way, they are flawed. Okay, I think one of the big issues is that we feel like we're sitting next to perfection or someone that is starkly better than us. And that really makes us feel inferior and imperfect. And it's like, oh, I just need to be quiet. But God has done so many things and is doing so many things inside of you. And you absolutely do not know what people need. Sometimes they come off as being like the best of the best, being so perfect. And those are the ones who are hurting the most. You know, we've talked about this where people who are in seems like the best positions in life, like what else could they want, end up being the same ones who are in horrible situations or end up in suicidal situations. And this makes us think, okay, so you can't just be around somebody and feel like this is who they are. You're just gonna, this is just who they are. They're just so amazing and I'm not. You know, that's, meanwhile I'm over here horrible. Like, you do not even know. You do not even know. I think that some of the people who are out here struggling and poor are way happier, way more joyful than some people who have what seems like everything. And so we've got to really take that and just keep that in perspective. Everyone has a need that someone has to meet. We were born with needs. You've heard me say this before. We were all born with needs that we could not ourselves meet. We couldn't meet all of them. We need others. We need God. And if that's the case, then that means that perhaps there is something that you will have that the other person needs. You know what I believe? I believe that God connects us with the people He wants us to be connected to. And that He knows what's in each person. And He knows that this person is lacking this. And this person is lacking this. But if I can put them together, then they can sharpen each other. And they can sow into each other something that the other person did not have. And so be mindful whenever you find yourself in a position or in a place where you feel inferior. Just know that God is ordering your steps. Remember that. He's ordering your steps. So He has guided you to this place. What is it that He has for you there? And what is it that He has for you to do there? Just be mindful that you are meant to be in that place for some reason. Okay? Each person has a need for affirmation and a need to belong. Now, if that doesn't help you to see the vulnerability in every single person, then I don't know what will. Every person has the need to belong. They need that affirmation in some way in their lives. For some people, affirmation for them is the money they make. For some people, affirmation for them is they're the words that their spouse or their friends or their family, loved ones tell them each day. And so we have to remember that each person has a need for that. And that right there kind of displays that vulnerability in everybody. Everybody has something. And last but not least, but each person is subject to God's authority. I have a family member who I was around here recently, and I hadn't seen them in years. But when I did see them, they were sicker than I remember them ever being, and very frail. And I walked away from that family member saying to myself, my God, I have the activity of my limbs. I can breathe, I can reason, I can think, I can walk, I can run, I can shout, I can sing, I can be busy. I can be busy. That is a privilege to be able to be busy. Some people can't do anything but sit. Some people can barely get around. Some people got to take it easy because they don't have a choice. And when I walked away from that situation, I walked away saying, God, I am this way for a reason. I could be that same way. You have allowed this activity, this movement, for a reason. This is for you. This is for a purpose. My body, my mind, this is for you. This is for your glory. There's no other I could be that same way. I could be that same person. I could be in that same state. It just got to me that, wow, I can walk. I can do that. And this person cannot do that well at all. My God. But you have sustained me for a reason. I'm not here for no reason. I'm not able to move and think and talk for no reason. You're doing something in me and through me. Who am I to get in a room and say that because of the way that things look in this room, because of the way that people look in this place, I am out of place? It was always the one who seems to be in the lower position in the word that God chose to elevate? Who are we to say that we are out of position? Our bishop today was talking about how um, there were people of Israel were afraid of all the ites, the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Ammonites, and all of these ites, and they were saying they had sent spies over, and they were saying that they came back like, oh, the people in that land are like they are of great stature, and yeah, we kind of like grasshoppers, and he pointed out how we called ourselves the Israelites, that we called ourselves grasshoppers. And it wasn't the enemy that called us that. It wasn't the people that they saw that had the stature, large stature, like giants. Like they didn't say that. And Bishop pointed out something that I had read last week. I read about spies being sent to Jericho whenever they were going to conquer Jericho. And, Rahab took the spies in, that whole story. But she revealed that the people here are afraid of you guys. We have heard of God. We have heard of your God. We have heard of how he has supplied your needs, how he split the sea in order for you guys to walk through. Like we've heard how he has given your enemies over to you. Like we've heard, and we know what's up. And so we often, though, don't even give that opportunity. We don't even get to that point. We are just up here just scared, just like Jesus, like, no. And we've got to get out of that place. We've got to do that first by getting honest about where we are. We've got to do that by evaluating where we are and saying, God, help me to really see what these subtle nuances are. These things that I think I'm doing right, but I'm not doing right. These things that I think I'm doing this way, but it's not even this. What are the things in my life that are disguising themselves as something positive that are really wrecking things for me? That is what we have got to start looking at. And we've got to go to God and say, God, help us. This is my prayer. This is my personal prayer. Help me. This thing that you have put before me, this thing that you are calling me to do, it is so beyond anything that I've even imagined. It seems so high up there, so official. I've never been anybody's official anything, Lord. So you're calling me to do this, and I'm overwhelmed, and I'm trying to cope, and I don't even realize it a lot of times, but I get fearful and I get prideful, and as a defense mechanism, and I am not meek. I'm shy and I'm scared. I need you, God, to help me to not be so caught up on what people think of me. I want you to be able to do what you're going to do in my life. And I know that that is going to call for some transparency. So help me to be that. And in the moment where someone is talking about their dream and talking about great things that they're accomplishing, help me to not feel inferior. Help me to go and seek you about what you want me to do. Lord, what do you have me to say in this moment? Do you have me to say anything? Do you have me to congratulate them? Would you have me to talk about what you're doing in my life? I need you to move through me. I need you to be free to move through me and in my life. So I need to move all of the barriers out of the way. And whenever there's someone that I am helping, that is what I make clear. That is what I say. If there's ever anyone that I'm helping, mentoring, giving advice to, I'm saying, I'm not making you perfect. I'm not making you better. You are not getting perfect and better. And this is not, what we're doing is not something that is here to, bam, fix all of your problems. We have things going on in us that nobody can fix but God. As a matter of fact, there are things that we don't even see clearly. We don't even know about. We've tricked ourselves into believing one thing about what we're doing and saying and being, So much so that we don't even know to even change it. So I am not doing anything to you or in you. But what we are doing right now is acknowledging that we need God to do a work in us. And we are simply making sure that we're bringing our activities and the things that we and our habits and our mindsets and things into submission to back up whatever it is that God is doing. We are making room for the King. That is what we are doing. We're making room for God to do what he is going to do. Sometimes I go and I face things and I realize I literally have nothing to offer your people if you don't give it to me. There is literally nothing that I have. There's nothing interesting enough. And if it is interesting, it's not really substantial enough to be doing anything and making a difference without you giving me that substance. I need you more than I can even comprehend. And so today, my prayer, and what I hope is your prayer, is that we will not be blind to those nuances and those things that are happening in our lives that are disguised as something great when it's not, when it's really a setup, something sent to destroy us or make us remain stagnant. My prayer is that we will be authentic and that we will watch those nuances. Help us to see. Remove the scales from our eyes, God, because we need you. Y'all, this was a long video, but I hope that helps somebody. And you know what I always say. My journey with God has been just that, a journey. And it's one that I feel that I'm meant to share with you. I hope this absolutely does something in your life. And I thank you for coming back each week and watching and joining me on this walk live.